Hi everyone, welcome to episode number 29 of Perfect Inspiration. My name is Brian Matias. Today's episode is about finding what it is that your radar is tuned to, and I use that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but for me, I love symmetry. Symmetry to me is just one of those things where it definitely has to do with my OCD, and when I find something where there's reflective properties, or where the scene is symmetrical, I really spend a lot of time trying to get it perfect, and sometimes it's outside of my control, but it gives me that creative juice. It gets that flowing, so that when I'm working out in the field, I'm not just kind of just moseying around without a plan. It's the fact that my radar is tuned to things that are symmetrical that really gets my creative juices flowing. So you can see here, this was taken in Mount Vernon, Washington. It's called a place called Tulip Town. Here's Google Maps, and there's Tulip Town right here. And there isn't much of a street view, but I can tell you that there are tons of tulips. And I went here, I think in early 2011 or late 2010. Actually, I could find out right here when I went. It was April 2011. And, you know, there is no shortage of these kinds of flowers, but for some reason I remember walking past this particular row, and you had these yellow tulips on the left and these whitish ones on the right. And so I got my camera really low. I had my Canon 15mm fisheye lens on, and you can see the curvature of the horizon right over here. But I really liked it because you have this kind of dividing line. You've got tulips on the left, tulips on the right, and there's definitely some symmetry going on here. But there's also this kind of angst that I see going on, almost like two warring factions. Almost like it's a turf war of sorts. And so you can see, though, that I don't have much detail in the sky, given the dynamic range. So if I go to the grid view, I did some brackets. This was taken way back when with my Canon 5D Mark II. So I'm going to select these really quickly, and I'm going to send them over to Photomatics by right-clicking. I'm going to go to Export and send it to my Photomatics preset here to tone map. All right, so here we are in Photomatics, and what I did was I hit the default button first right here to reset everything to default. I'm going to start by taking the strength, bringing it up really high, about 95, maybe even 100%, just for the tone mapping strength, the algorithm strength. I'm going to bring that white point down right here significantly because the default value is really high. Now you can see that we're getting a bit darker, so I'm going to bring the gamma up, and I'm also going to bring the luminosity up a bit and the detail contrast up. I'm going to drop that saturation just a bit too, because it's a bit too punchy for me in terms of color. But you can see here, I'm just going to maybe drop that luminosity a bit and drop the detail contrast now that I'm looking at it. You can see now that we have a nice evenly exposed image. Nice, it's flat, we have all this really nice detail on the clouds, and we have detail through all of the flowers here, even in the shadow areas. So now that I'm done with that, I'm going to hit Save and Re-import to come back to Lightroom. All right, so I'm in the Develop module here in Lightroom, and what I'm going to start doing is some spot healing. There are some dust spots here that are bothering me, and so I'm just going to try to get rid of them. There might be some more that will pop up during stylization, but for now, I think those were the few that I saw here. There's one right there. All right, so now it's time to stylize. I'm going to go back to the library here, right-click, Edit In, and then select Perfect Effects 4 to stylize. All right, so stylization is not going to be that deep. A few effects. I'm going to start with landscape, or rather the landscape category, and I'm going to go down over to the Magic Forest effect. And this is going to be the base. It's going to set the tone for the image. You can see that it's a bit harsh, so again, bring that amount slider down to 0, something I always say, and I'm only going to bring it up about 45%. You don't need to necessarily use an effect at 100% to get, the best of it. I'm going to click Add to create a new effect layer, and now I'm going to scroll up to a different category called Cross Process. The reason why I want to do that is because I want to add an overall different look to the image, and I'm going to stick with Cross Process Blue. Now, before I do anything, I'm going to bring that strength down to 0, stop where I'm happy. So here, probably around 60 some odd percent. That looks good. But I want to blend it. I don't necessarily want to take the normal blending mode. So what I did was I hit that Options button right here under the Effect stack. And I'm going to go over going to hover over a few of these. And so I'm thinking actually probably soft light looks really good. And so I do like this. I like what soft light's doing. I might drop that strength down a bit and then hit apply. And while I'm at it, you can see that with the cross-process effect, I also have some of these sliders over here that I have access to. So I'm going to actually bring up that local contrast slider. That's going to give a little bit more texture to the scene. All right, I'm going to hit add, and then we're going to work on our last effect. Now, under the glow category here, there's an effect, or rather two effects that I absolutely love, and the difference is basically how much of a color punch there is. But it's Orton Clean and Orton Here's a Who. I'm going to go with Orton Clean. I absolutely love it, but at full strength, it's a bit much. So I'm going to go ahead here, bring it to 0. I'm only going to add a little bit of this glow, maybe about 35%, 36%. And then just like the cross-process effect, I'm going to blend it with the soft light blending mode. And you can see it just adds a little bit of pop to the image. And so watch, here's the, there's a checkbox right here to show the original image. I'm going to deselect the preview. And there you go. That's the original tone mapped image. And you can see what just a few effects has done here to really pop the image. So I'm going to click apply now to return back to Lightroom, and we're going to finish things off. All right, so we're back in the develop module in Lightroom, and here's the first thing that I noticed actually. When I applied that magic forest effect, I noticed that it brought out some of the chromatic aberration that was in my scene. And you can see that the chromatic aberration or the color aberration is right here. Now this is not a problem with HDR or with the stylization. It's actually a defect of a lens, or it's a byproduct of the lens you use. And so you can see we're at the edge, and this is most noticeable. Chromatic aberration you'll see mostly at the edges of your lens. And where there's high contrast edges. So you can see what I mean by a high contrast edge. It's a very bright area hitting a very sharp area. Well, actually, with Lightroom 4, if you scroll down here, under the lens correction pane and the color tab, there's a checkbox that says remove chromatic aberration. So I'm going to select that on, and I'm going to bring that all the way up. And so do you see what it does? It actually removes that purple fringe. Again, watch. Let's bring that to 0. See how that fringe is there? Bring it up, removes it. It's really a wonderful tool, and it's something that I recommend you, if you're going to work on or you're going to use this tool, zoom in like I did here and get a close-up view, because at this view, you really won't see it in action. All right, let's go back up here. Really quickly, I'm going to brighten this up a bit, and I'm going to add a little bit of contrast. I'm not going to do much with the shadows and highlights here. I might drop the highlights just a bit. It's a bit hot up here in the clouds. I might drop the white point down a bit too, but I'm really happy with that. I'm going to give an overall clarity boost. I'm going to drop the saturation across the whole image, but I'm going to boost the vibrance. So it really kind of adds a nice look to this image. Last thing I'm going to do is scroll to the bottom, add a nice hefty vignette. But what I'm going to do also is bring the feather up, so the transition of that vignette's really, really gradual. And I'll bring the midpoint in. So the eye kind of focuses right here in the middle. And so that's what we've got. Let's take a quick look. I'm going to do a comparison here. So we'll do this image, and this image. And let's do a quick compare. So let's put this one over here. Let's put this one over here. All right, so this is our first image. This was one of the original brackets, and pretty much what you'd get if you did a single exposure meter. Then there's this one, which is our tone map, and you can see, just look at the clouds, look at through the flowers themselves. You can see all this wonderful detail, but it's still very, very respectable. Not really that really awful HDR look that a lot of people complain about. And then you've got the stylized image, which is totally subjective. For me, I really wanted to get a bit in your face, very punchy with the colors and with the shadows. So I think I achieved that here. And so again, it's not about symmetry here. This episode's not about the symmetry. Symmetry is what I love. It's what gets me going. What you really need to do is spend that time and think about what it is that when you're out there, what is it that really consistently gets you going? There might be something. It could be, certain type of time of day or a location. Whatever it is, you have to identify what it is. And once you do, that's when the real magic will happen. That's when the creativity will start flowing. And so with that, I want to thank you again for tuning in. Next week is episode 30. I look forward to seeing you then.